Well, joining me now is Barbara Frei. Barbara, thank you for coming along. You have a picture across Europe, and in the UK we've had this whole thing about a move from energy procurement to energy efficiency, and that's been going on for the last 5-10 years. But the problem is making the long-term investment and getting it past the board. Is that a problem that's unique to the... What's the picture across Europe when it comes to trying to find the funding for all this great energy efficiency that we've seen here today?
I think there are various pictures overall. I think what many countries have already done, and which was also very much supported by the government, like for instance in Italy, is that energy efficiency when it comes to processes. So you take a variable speed drive instead of have a fixed line motor whatsoever. So I think this wave has now gone through.
Yes.
The next wave we see in front of us are the buildings. So there is still a lot of untapped potential in the building area, and I think here the people are the most reluctant to touch it.
Without doubt.
But I think what we always has to see in the last 12 months, I think the politicians in Europe have started to recognize there is really a need to be CO2 neutral or to reduce CO2. And you can only do this through energy efficiency. You know, even if you put 100,000 of electrical cars on the road whatsoever, it helps. But you need energy efficiency in this whole education. And what I feel, specifically also in Germany, 2 years ago, people did not really take this so serious. Now it has really changed. And people start to see the opportunities instead of the economical disadvantage. So that we say, hey, now really, we have the solutions, we have the innovation. Europe is very innovative. So this is why I'm also convinced, even that today sometimes the solution might look expensive, maybe there is an innovative approach that you could do this in different steps. So that instead of spending 5 million in one approach, you can spend maybe 1 million and see how this develops. And depending on your economical situation, you can spend even more. So I would say the disbalance between doing something good, which is ecological, which is energy efficient.
And everyone buys into that argument,
and the economical disbalance starts to come like this. And I think at a certain point it will even go like this. So I'm following this now the last 25 years, this whole discussion. I can tell you, whatever we discuss today and what we apply in solar, in electrical vehicles, in energy, that was already known 25 years ago. But the appetite there was zero. Then it started to become a bit bigger, and now I think the appetite has never been bigger from my point of view, specifically in Europe.
Where would you say is leading the efficiency drive? Is it, I assume, the big countries like Germany and
I would say the Nordics is a bit more.
Right, the Nordics,
When look, my reference is now from traveling around the last 10 months. And what I have the feeling is specifically in the Nordics, the sustainability thought is very high. Right. And there you can feel a lot of people also, they only go to work for a company if they also feel the company is really sustainable. They are taking this whole CO2 discussion, climate change discussion serious. Whereas I would say the more you come to the south, the less it really becomes a big topic.
But also, to be fair, the Nordics have tiny populations compared to, you know, a Germany, a France and Italy.
However, when you count them together, there are also 50 million people. So you take Finland, you take Sweden, Norway, Denmark. I don't know. I don't know the exact figure, but you sum up to 40-50 million, if I'm not mistaken.
I've got an issue when I talk to our viewers, which is that it's always the same. We love the idea of energy efficiency in the UK, but our problem is really compounded with uncertainty around Brexit, with uncertainty generally in the markets, that investment you were talking about, they don't want to make it. Not because the energy managers don't want to do it, but the board is thinking short term. And they also think it is a big outlay. So what are companies like you trying to do with it? Are you working in ways of helping people fund this? Are you thinking of new business models? Or do you believe that this is just something that companies will have to become, you know, have to change their attitude towards?
I think it's all of what you are just saying right now. I think on one hand, what we can do is really listen to those customers and very specifically ask them, what is the budget you anyhow have available?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and maybe, and as I was mentioning before, maybe within this budget we find the first solution. It might not be the top-notch solution which brings you 30% efficiency, maybe it brings you 10, but it's now the first step. Then the other thing is, of course, also that we start to work a lot on policymakers and on thought leadership. So really that the sustainability thought becomes a thought that is taken serious in Europe. And I think specifically when we then talk on these public events, we try to emphasize here the urgency. And I think, again, also in the UK, people are people.
Of course.
And younger people like to work for companies who have high standards in sustainability.
Yeah.
Usually it's family policy and sustainability. And I'm 100% sure also the UK will not come around if they want to attract talents, that they have to invest in these kind of things. So for me, that's two things. On one hand, we can adjust our offer. On the other hand, I think the companies will be forced to go into this direction because a war for talent. Correct, and there is a war for talent.
Yeah.
There is a war for talent.
What are you doing to help companies? So if someone says, look, I really like one of your, I don't know, solar or whatever energy efficient products you've got, lighting, but is there a way that Schneider's trying to create things, particularly for the smaller markets? Big businesses in the UK do a lot of this stuff already, but the SME market is one, and I think we were talking about
Small,
today,
medium enterprise,
small, medium, we were talking about the buildings. So the property portfolio in the UK is so energy inefficient. It's one of the big things that they're trying to tackle. So what are the sort of things you're trying to offer to, I don't know, landlords or to local authorities who run these sort of big portfolios to help with the budgets when times are tough? Are you trying to find financial ways to help as well as a company?
Not necessarily. So we are not a bank in that sense. No. I would say what we try to do is if the customer is a relatively big customer, we usually go directly and we start to consult. And I think we do this quite well, specifically also in the UK. When there is a smaller customer, we prefer to work through partners. Right. Partners are really our leverage. And we want to enforce this even more, this network, because they are closer to these mid-sized companies. And we also give them, those partners, sometimes the possibility to expand their portfolio. Instead of doing pure hardware, in the future they can do even more software or provide additional services. So whatever we do to help the end customer, we try to do a lot via partners. And this is not always so easy and so evident. It takes a lot of effort and of course also the willingness of the partners to develop further. But I feel much more willingness has developed in the last 18 months to 2 years to go into this direction.
What do you think is going to drive this eventually? Do you think technology will make it the thing? You did that balance of the sustainability drive with the financials, and you've eventually said hopefully it'll go into the positive. No. Do you think that eventually the reason people will become more sustainable is because it's cheaper?
Yes, I think the technology itself is here.
Right.
And it has already been here 25 years ago.
And it's getting better.
But it's getting cheaper, it's getting more reliable, it's getting faster. Now we talk about 5G and these kind of things. So all indicators are really going into the right direction. In that sense, that exactly solar panels and this whole solar PV, we are reaching grid parity, and this will accelerate a lot.
The final area I want to discuss is, with all this efficiency, new products, the digitization, there comes a cost, the energy cost of these new devices. If we all have smart metering everywhere, if we have energy efficient lighting that uses transformers, all of those sort of things, what are you doing to address, as you build more efficient products, how you keep the energy profile of these things, which add more eventually, because there's more of these things out there? How are you making sure that you're trying to keep the energy use as low as possible?
I think in our whole R&D process, the sustainability thought is part of it from end to end. So over the whole life cycle. So we design in we usually make a product which is more efficient than the old one. That's the first point. And then we also look how much energy does it cost to produce it. And then how much energy, correct, and how much energy do I need to recycle it in the end? Yes. So it's over the whole life cycle and this is essentially a part already since a longer time of our whole R&D process.
Are you hopeful for the future when it comes to, the efficiency thing? Because as you say, more younger people are going on marches and saying these things. Still, companies think about financials. But how do you see the next 5 to 10 years in terms of energy efficiency in Europe?
As I said before, I studied in this area And when I was finishing my studies in the 90s, there was no appetite.
There was nothing there, yeah.
No appetite. So
You're lucky to have a job.
correct. Yeah, you're right. So I hadn't really go into energy efficiency. However, this has changed over the last few years, and I think it has really gained momentum in the last 2 years more. So I was in one of a climate conference where there were people sitting from big insurances and saying, hey, we have to really start to take this serious because we have those tornadoes, those weather storms. It's costing us a lot of money. And there is now an acknowledgement, there is a correlation between CO2 and what we see as a climate challenge at the moment.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of awareness is new for me.
Right.
So, new in the sense it's coming up now since 2 years that there is a larger population taking this as, yes, it's really like this. We now really have to do this.
So you're positive that
Absolutely.
things will improve?
Absolutely.
I hope so. Thank you very much for your time.